Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a few minutes since someone asked people to be brief. Mr. Fain, the headline just came across. Stellantis offers buyouts and early retirement to 6,400 U.S. non-union workers as the auto industry hits turbulence. Now, you don't know for sure, but after the very good contract you awarded, they're now laying off 6,400 people. Yeah. It seems like a little bit of a tube of toothpaste. If you squeeze here, it's going to do something down there. And I think that would be something that Ms. Furchtgott-Roth would point out. Any thoughts on that? And again, be brief because I got other questions.
Talking to the mic.
I don't have to.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sorry?
Talking to the mic, please.
I'll give you 12 billion reasons why that doesn't have to happen. Okay, when Stellantis took over, they went on a price cutting, on a labor cost cutting initiative.
But that was about a decade ago. So
no. Stellantis just took over, within the last 4 years.
Okay.
But when they took over, they wanted to cut their way to profitability, but they do it on the backs of workers, and they don't have to cut those jobs. They chose to cut those jobs. It has nothing to do with our contract. They made $12 billion in the first 6 months of this year, and are continuing to make billions as we went through the bargaining process. So, again, to me, it's short-sighted goals to recognize profits, and I've heard this said over and over by leaders in the past. You can't cut your way to profitability, and it's a short-sighted way of doing business, and it's not sustainable for the long term. So,
okay, so Mr. O'Brien, yellow trucking is obviously going belly up, it appears. And they had come to the Teamsters in June, I'm just reading press reports, and asked for some help. And it specifically mentioned you that we're not going to, get tough attitude is how the article put it. And now they've gone belly up. There's reports that the Teamsters came back in August to try and make things better, but by that time it was too late. Now, there it seems, again, going back to the witnesses, Mr. Higgins and Ms. FGR, that this kind of approach brought a company under, and now we have a lot of Teamsters who are going to be unemployed.
All due respect, Dr. Cassidy, that's inaccurate on the yellow situation. This yellow situation has been going on since 2009, where our members have given back in concessions with the recommendation of the union to try and save this company since 2009, $5 billion in wages and benefits. And this company was awarded under the Trump administration a $700 million loan, right? And the company's just been mismanaged. And they did not come to us in August. They came to us early on. We tried to work with them and find solutions to the problem. All the while, after their initial meetings, they started, and we found this after the fact, they started draining. They told us to be out of money by August, and that if we didn't help them, then they would go under. All the while, they were taking their executive bonuses as CEO pays. And
but in the scheme of things,
they can blame anybody they want. That company was mismanaged since 2009. There's facts and records to show exactly what our members have given.
And I won't argue about the quality of their management. It does seem, though, that when I read the benefit packages that the drivers got, they would argue that they could not afford that. But that's their perspective. And I'm sorry, I just have limited time. Ms. Furchtgott-Roth, I remember distinctly that Mr. Fain had made comments that the rapid transition to all EV vehicles was part of what was contributing to the loss of jobs. I saw a cartoon, the green economy will create jobs. Unfortunately, most of them are in China. You commented as well on that in your testimony. In response to Coach Tuberville, Mr. Fain kind of soft-pedaled that, but any thoughts on that? In effect, President Biden's environmental policies have contributed to some of this loss of jobs in the auto industry.
Microphone.
Mr. Fain did say very clearly in April of this year, shame on politicians for moving forward to 100% EVs because this is bad for our auto workers' jobs. So I was especially puzzled why, during the negotiations, he didn't try to get these auto workers to drop their own self-imposed goal of going all EV by 2035 And Mr. Fain has just said that he's got some of the internal combustion engines to move back from offshore, but they're not going to be able to use them after 2035. At least they say they're not going to be able to use them. They say they're not going to use them. So why is that? It's not under the law. So he should be able to persuade them that his members' jobs are more important, plus what Americans want to buy. Small businesses, farmers, they all need cars with internal combustion engines.
Mr. O'Brien, this is also the help committee, and the P stands for pensions. And it was mentioned earlier, I think, by Mr. Higgins, that the Central States Pension Fund had received money to help bail out their, I think, $36 billion or something like that, to bail out them in arrears. It's my understanding that the roster submitted by the Central States Pension Fund had nearly 3,500 dead individuals submitted to the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. Somebody commented it's a little bit like the voting rolls in Chicago. But as a result of this, the pension fund was awarded $127 million in additional bailout money. Now, is the pension fund going to refund that to the American people?
Well, I would assume it would, and I assume the government would go after that if that's
I
really
think
what
this
happened.
administration has made the decision that they're not going to, but that's the kind of administration decision. That's actually not kind of a taxpayer-type decision.
Well, look, I'll go on record as saying if someone was given something they weren't entitled to, they should refund it.
Sounds great. Can I quickly on Mr. Higgins? Mr. Higgins, you mentioned on the joint employer rule it's a boon to employees. I think my understanding is if you have a Subway and you've got 7 employees and 4 of them vote to unionize, that young entrepreneur or that person of color who's got their first business has to unionize. And of course, with increased cost and hassle. Any quick comments on that? Because the chair is being indulgent, but still, quick comments?
Well, as far as the joint employer goes, it doesn't directly impact unionization itself, but in terms of it does sort of bleed back towards the corporate parent, and that's, I believe, the intent here. If you're organizing, you have to organize, in their franchisees, you have to organize them piecemeal by one. But if the franchisor is considered the joint employer for all of its franchisees, then you can simply direct your campaign at the franchisor corporation and do it that way. And I believe that's the sort of underlying impetus.
Okay.